The first time she asked if I wanted to stay the night, my heart nearly froze. Her voice came out gentle, almost casual, but there was an undercurrent that squeezed my chest. Outside, the storm rattled the windows with every gust. Behind me the couch was already prepared, neat sheets, pillow, blanket, and Emma Lane stood there in her living room in a plain sweater, wearing that small, careful smile that seemed to carry extra weight. "Do you want to stay here tonight?" she asked. All I could think was, if I say yes, everything between us changes forever. My name is Alex Taylor. I'm 26 and I write code for a tech company in Portland, Oregon. Most days consist of a bright monitor, noise-canceling headphones, and bugs that refuse to die. The office has gray partitions, harsh fluorescence, and people who look permanently exhausted. It buzzes non-stop, like it never truly rests. The one thing that makes any of it feel alive is Emma. She's my team lead, 30, incredibly sharp, quick-thinking, yet somehow still gentle in an environment that grinds everyone down. She onboarded me 3 years ago when I started. She never once made me feel stupid for asking dumb questions. When a build failed at 2 a.m., she stayed level-headed and threw in a dry joke. When I forgot to eat, a granola bar would mysteriously appear on my desk. Somewhere between midnight deploys and coffee runs, she turned into my closest friend. That should have been sufficient. I kept telling myself it was. She was my manager, my guide, the one reliable person in a draining job. My heart, though, never bought the story. That Friday the sky had been low and threatening all day, as if Portland itself was holding its breath. By 5 most people had logged off and fled to beat the rain. I stayed to verify one last commit. I could practically hear Emma's voice in my head, test twice before the weekend. When I finally shut down, the office felt cavernous and lonely. The fluorescent hum seemed louder without human voices to mask it. As I reached the lobby the storm slammed into me. Rain sheeted against the glass doors. Streetlights outside dissolved into smeared halos. Emma stood by the entrance, staring at her phone. Her dark brown hair was damp at the tips, a few drops clinging to her collar. Her badge still dangled from her neck. When she glanced up and saw me her blue eyes warmed. "Still here?" I asked. "Yeah," she sighed, tired. "Cars in the shop, transmission. I've been trying to find a ride. No one's picking up. Ride shares are a nightmare right now." I lifted my keys. "Old Honda's downstairs. I can drive you." She hesitated, lip caught between her teeth. "You sure?" "I hate being a hassle. If I go home alone I'll just stare at my screen again," I said. "Let me at least be useful." That earned a small, real smile. "Okay. Deal." We dashed through the rain to the garage, laughing as water soaked our shoes. My car was nothing special, faded blue, dented fender, but it always started. Emma settled into the passenger seat. When I switched on the heat the car filled with warm air and the steady drum of rain on the roof. We drove in easy quiet, soft music barely audible. The city crawled, headlights bleeding across wet asphalt. The weight of the week slowly lifted. "Thanks again," she said. "Feels like I'm always dragging you into extra things." "You dragged me out for tacos once," I reminded her. "You basically saved my social life." She laughed. "You're a pretty solid sidekick, Alex." "Sidekick," I repeated. Ouch. Her smile stayed. Maybe not only a sidekick. By the time we reached her street the storm had intensified. Trees whipped. Water raced along the curbs. I stopped in front of her small beige house, the porch light glowed softly through the downpour. "You really think it's safe to drive back in this?" she asked. "I'll manage," I said. She studied the rain, then looked at me in a new way. "If you're not in a hurry, come in for dinner. I've got pasta." I said yes before logic could catch up. Inside, Her place felt warm, lived in, soft lamps, art on the walls, books and plants in every corner. She handed me a dry t-shirt and assigned me chopping duty. We cooked side by side, bumping elbows and laughing. Garlic scented the air. We ate at the table by the window, watching rain trace paths down the glass. Conversation wandered from work to childhood stories to dreams we'd never mentioned at the office. When the dishes were done it was late. The storm still howled. She stood in the living room, gaze moving between the front door and the couch, then made up her mind. You really shouldn't drive in this. Why don't you just stay tonight? My heart slammed against my ribs. I met her eyes. I'll stay. The next words came out before I could stop them. But I'm not sleeping on the sofa. They hung there longer than I expected. Rain pounded the roof, almost listening. Emma didn't flinch. She studied my face, trying to decide if I was serious or if I'd just crossed a line we couldn't uncross. You're not, she said carefully, sleeping on the sofa. My throat tightened. I mean, you take the bed. I'll take the floor. That couch is way too short. I'll wake up in pieces. For half a second her mouth flattened. Then she laughed, soft, relieved, tension dissolving. She grabbed a pillow and tossed it at my chest. You scared me for a second. I thought you were being extremely bold. I caught it, cheeks burning. I'm not that courageous. Her smile gentled. Not yet, she murmured, so quiet I barely caught it. She pulled out the sofa bed anyway, smoothing sheets, adding a blanket. We worked together in the same comfortable silence we knew from work, only now no monitors separated us. Just warm light, faint music, and rain. When it was ready she stepped back. You sure you're okay out here? I can take the couch. I'm good, I said. This is already more than I expected tonight. She nodded, fetched an extra blanket. It gets cold when it rains like this. As I sat on the edge of the pull-out, listening to the storm, something inside me felt different. This was the same woman who led stand-ups and drove deadlines, yet here, in low light, she seemed closer. More real. She returned, draped the blanket over the foot. If you need anything, knock. I'm right down the hall. Got it. She paused, like there was more. Alex, she said quietly. Thank you for tonight. It's been a long week. You're not alone, I told her. Not at work. Not now. Her eyes softened, the air thickened again for a moment. Then she smiled, switched off the overhead light, left the small lamp glowing. Good night. Good night. I lay staring at the ceiling, replaying everything, her laugh in the car, her voice in the kitchen, the way she asked me to stay. I told myself it was practical, bad roads, extra space, nothing more. Deep down I knew something had permanently shifted. I fell asleep to rain and the soft creaks of her house. When I woke, soft gray light filled the room. For a second I forgot where I was. Then the smell hit me, coffee, toast, eggs. Morning, Emma called from the kitchen. You alive? Barely, I said, sitting up. I walked in and stopped. The table was set, eggs, toast, fruit, coffee. She stood by the stove in a soft sweater and jeans, hair loosely pulled back. No badge, no work armor, just her. How'd the couch treat you? She asked. Better than expected, I said. This breakfast looks like a reward. She laughed. Sit. Eat. We ate slowly, talking about everything but work at first, where she grew up, why Portland, my first terrible apartment. It felt easy. Safe. You make it look easy, I said at one point. The job, the pressure. She looked into her mug. It's not. I just don't show it. I saw something honest in her eyes then, something tired, something real. It helps having someone who doesn't make it harder, she added. After breakfast I washed dishes and fixed a small leak under her sink. She leaned in the doorway, watching, smiling. "You're dangerous," she said. "If I'd known you fix things, I would have invited you over sooner." "That feels like a trap," I replied. She smiled, but her eyes lingered a little longer. We rode to work together, quiet but comfortable. When we pulled into the lot, she touched my arm for just a second. "I liked having you here," she said. That warmth stayed with me, until the whispers started. It began small, glances, low voices in the break room, then messages in team chat, jokes, winks, comments that weren't really jokes. By afternoon it was obvious people were talking. During stand-up someone made a remark about strong partnerships. A few people laughed. Emma stayed calm, but I saw the tension in her jaw. Later she messaged me, "Balcony. Need air." The rain had slowed to mist. She stood by the railing, hands in pockets. "This is getting old," she said quickly. "I'm sorry," I said. "This is my fault." "No," she said firmly. "We did nothing wrong." She told me how hard she'd worked to be taken seriously, how fast people twisted things. "If it gets worse," she said quietly, "I might have to ask to move you to another team." My chest tightened. "I don't want to move." She looked at me, really looked. "So what do we do?" "We don't hide," I said. "We keep it clean. We call it out." She nodded slowly. "Okay." The next day she spoke to leadership. I backed her up in public channels. The jokes stopped. The whispers faded. What stayed was something deeper. A quiet understanding. A trust that felt stronger than before. And every time it rained after that, I thought about that night. About the couch. About the words I almost didn't say. About the line we were both standing just on the edge of crossing. After the rumors died down, something settled between us. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, steady, heavy in the best way. Like we'd silently agreed that whatever this was mattered enough to protect. Work returned to normal on the surface, meetings, tickets, deadlines. Emma stayed sharp and professional. So did I. But underneath, everything felt different. We noticed each other more. A glance held half a second longer. A smile meant only for one person. A shared silence that said more than words. We didn't talk about that night again, not the couch, not the breakfast, not her hand on my arm in the parking lot. We both knew naming it too soon might break it. So we let time do the work. It started small, outside the office. A late Tuesday message, "Have you eaten?" A photo of her failed attempt at a new recipe. A joke that I still owed her for fixing her sink too well, now she had no excuse to call me over. One Friday after a sprint ended early, she asked if I wanted to grab food. "Just food," she said. Casual. No storm this time. We went to a small place near the river, warm lights, wooden tables, soft voices around us. We sat across from each other, not side by side like coworkers, but not distant either. Somewhere in between. "You feel different?" she asked after a while, stirring her drink. "Different how?" "Calmer. Like you're not always bracing for something bad." I smiled a little. "Maybe I'm tired of pretending I don't care about things." She looked at me, really looked, and nodded like she understood more than I'd said. That night, walking back to our cars, the air cool and damp, Portland quiet, she stopped before opening her door. "I'm glad we're doing this," she said. "Doing what?" I asked, even though I knew. She smiled, not rushing, not hiding. Just honest. I drove home thinking about that word, honest. Over the next weeks our lives slowly braided together. Grocery trips became shared meals. Fixing things at her place became an excuse to stay longer. Sometimes we talked for hours. Sometimes we just sat on the couch, legs tucked close, watching rain streak the windows. One night, a movie playing quietly, she rested her head on my shoulder. It wasn't dramatic. It felt natural, like it had always been waiting to happen. You know, she said softly, I almost didn't ask you to stay that first night. Why not? I was scared. Scared of wanting more than I was ready for. I turned so I could see her face. Are you still scared? She thought for a moment. Then shook her head. No. I'm more scared of pretending this doesn't matter. My heart thumped hard. I lifted my hand slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. She leaned into it. That was the first time I kissed her. Gentle, careful, like we were both afraid of startling the moment. When we pulled back, her eyes were bright, breath uneven. Well, she said quietly, that answers a few questions. I laughed softly. Yeah. It really does. From then on there was no pretending. We didn't label it right away, we didn't need to. We just kept showing up for each other. But even as things grew warmer, closer, one line remained uncrossed. One unspoken rule we both felt, until the night the storm came back. It was late. Another deploy. Another urgent issue. We were the last ones in the building again. Lights low, rain hammering the windows like it was reminding us where it all began. When we finally closed our laptops and stood, Emma looked exhausted, real exhaustion, the kind she usually hid. Come with me, she said quietly. To your place? I asked. She nodded. I don't want to be alone tonight. The drive was quiet. Rain loud on the windshield. Inside her house the familiar warmth wrapped around us. She set her bag down, turned to me, took a deep breath. Do you remember what you said the first time I asked you to stay? I swallowed. Yeah. I'm asking again, she said. And this time I want to know what you really meant. My heart raced. I stepped closer, close enough to feel her warmth. I meant, I said slowly, that if I stay, I don't want to pretend. I don't want distance. I don't want excuses. Her eyes searched mine. Then she smiled, soft, sure. Good, she said, because I don't either. The rain beat harder as she took my hand and led me down the hall. This time, neither of us looked back at the sofa. Her bedroom felt quieter, more personal. Low, warm light. She let go of my hand, stood near the bed, breathing slowly like she was steadying herself. We don't have to rush, she said. I know, I replied. I'm not going anywhere. That eased something in her. She smiled, dimmed the lamp further. Outside, rain kept falling, steady, familiar. We talked first, not about work, not about tomorrow, but about small things, about how strange it felt to finally stop holding back, about how long we'd both been afraid of wanting the same thing. I'm used to being careful, she said, sitting on the edge of the bed. All the time. At work. In life. I don't let myself need people easily. I sat beside her, close but not touching. You don't have to be strong every second. Not with me. She looked at me, really looked, and reached for my hand. Her fingers were warm, a little shaky. That's what scares me, she said softly. And what makes me want this even more. When she leaned in and kissed me again, it was deeper, slower, like we were learning each other's rhythm. No rush. Just trust, building moment by moment. We ended up lying side by side, still dressed, staring at the ceiling while rain tapped the window. This feels nice, she said after a while. It really does, I agreed. That night's sleep came easy. For the first time in a long time my mind didn't race. I just listened to her breathing and let myself rest. In the morning light filtered through the curtains. She was awake, watching me. You look peaceful, she said. I feel it, I said, smiling. We made coffee, stood barefoot in the kitchen, sharing a quiet morning like it was the most natural thing in the world. No big talks. Just being there. At work that week things stayed professional, but something had shifted for the better. We communicated better. Trusted more. The team felt it too. The project flowed. Deadlines stopped feeling like threats. One afternoon after a meeting she stopped me near my desk. Dinner tonight? Always, I said. It became our rhythm, work hard, go home together, let the rain fall while we built something real inside. But life tests calm moments. The email came on a Thursday. Reorganization. New teams. New reporting lines. One line made my stomach drop. Emma was being considered for a big promotion, one that would put her over multiple teams. She found me an hour later by the windows, arms crossed. This could change things, she said quietly. Yeah. It could. If I take it, she continued, we can't keep pretending this doesn't exist. It would be visible. Complicated. I took her hand right there in the empty corner. Then we don't pretend, I said. We decide what we want and deal with the rest together. She searched my face. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. She nodded slowly, leaned her forehead against mine. Okay. Then whatever happens next, we face it honestly. That night at her place, Rain returned like an old friend. We sat on the couch, fingers laced, both thinking about the future. I don't know where this is going, she said. I do, I replied. Forward. She smiled, rested her head on my shoulder. For the first time the unknown didn't feel scary. It felt full of promise. The weeks that followed felt heavier, but not bad. More like everything carried weight and meaning now. Emma's possible promotion hung over us like a question we didn't want to answer too quickly. We kept moving forward, carefully, hand in hand. At work people noticed her more. Leadership pulled her into longer meetings. Her calendar filled. I saw pressure building behind her calm smile. She never complained, but some nights she'd go quiet, staring at nothing. One evening after a long day she finally said it. I'm scared, she admitted. Not of the job. I can do the job. I'm scared of what it will cost. I turned toward her on the couch. What do you think it will cost? She hesitated. Us. The word landed heavy and honest. If I take this role, she continued, there will be rules. Boundaries. Eyes on everything I do. People already like to talk. This would give them more. I reached for her hand, squeezed. Then we make choices that protect both of us. Not just your career, not just mine, us. She searched my face for doubt. Found none. You really are all in, she said quietly. I've been all in longer than you know, I said. That made her laugh softly, eyes shining. She leaned into me, head against my chest, listening to my heartbeat like she needed proof I was real. A few days later she got the official offer. She didn't open it at work. She waited until we were home, rain tapping the windows. She sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, hands folded like she was bracing. Well, she said, taking a breath. This is it. I stood behind her, hands on her shoulders. No matter what it says, I'm here. She clicked. The room went quiet except for Rain. Her eyes moved across the screen slowly. When she leaned back and closed her eyes. They want me. Starting next quarter. I smiled before I could stop. That's amazing. She smiled too, but worry mixed in. It is. And it isn't. We talked for hours that night, company policy, transparency, how to do this right without hurting either career. Fear, frustration, silence while holding hands. By the end the decision was clear. We tell HR, she said. Not everything, just enough. We set boundaries at work. No secrets. I nodded. And outside work? She smiled then, slow and sure. Outside work, I want you fully. My chest tightened in the best way. I leaned down and kissed her, soft, certain. The next week wasn't easy. Meetings with HR, careful wording. New reporting lines so I wasn't directly under her anymore. It felt strange at first, her speaking from a different seat, a different role. But I was proud of her every day. And she never made me feel smaller because of it. If anything, we grew stronger. One night, after everything settled, she came to my place for the first time. My apartment was simple, clean, plain furniture. She walked around slowly, taking it in. This feels like you, she said. Quiet. Solid. I laughed. That might be the nicest thing anyone said about my couch. She sat, pulled me down with her. You know, this all started because of a storm and a sofa. And a very firm boundary, I added. She smiled, eyes warm. You weren't really talking about the sofa, were you? No, I admitted. I was talking about not wanting to be halfway in. She kissed me then, slow, sure, no doubt left between us. Later, lying together, I realized something simple and true, the storm that brought us together wasn't the hardest part. Choosing each other was. And we had. Life didn't slow down after that. If anything, it sped up. Emma stepped into her new role with the same calm strength, only now more eyes were on her. I moved teams, took new challenges, proved I could stand on my own. At work we were careful, professional, clear. To anyone watching, we were just two people who respected each other's work, no inside jokes, no lingering looks, no lines crossed. It wasn't cold. It felt solid. Like we knew what we had and didn't need to prove it. Outside the office it was another world. Some nights quiet, cooking together, music low, rain tapping like always. Other nights full of laughter, teasing, talk stretching past midnight. We learned each other's habits, how she needed quiet minutes after hard days, how I liked fixing things to feel useful, how neither of us liked going to bed angry. One evening months later another storm rolled through Portland, heavy rain, wind pushing the windows, the kind of night that made the city feel small again. We were at her place, on the couch, legs tangled. She was scrolling on her phone when she suddenly smiled. Do you remember the first night you stayed here? How could I forget? I said. You almost gave me a heart attack. She laughed softly. You know what I remember most? What? The way you said you weren't sleeping on the sofa. It wasn't about being uncomfortable. It was about choosing not to be invisible in your own life. I looked at her, really looked, and felt that same tight pull in my chest from months ago. That night changed everything, I said. She nodded. It did. She set her phone down, turned to me, expression thoughtful. I've been thinking, she said, about us. About the future. My heart beat faster, but I stayed quiet. I don't want to build a life where we're always careful, she continued. I want something steady. Real. Something that lasts. I took her hands. So do I. She smiled, eyes shining. Good. Because I don't ever want to ask you to sleep on the sofa again. I laughed, pulled her closer. Deal. Later that night, as the rain softened and the city quieted, we lay together listening to the storm fade. I thought about how it all started, a late night, a broken car, a simple question that carried so much weight. She once said, "Stay the night." And I answered the only way I knew how. Not halfway. Not carefully. Not on the sofa.